Hey everyone, welcome to the big finale of Go Unstuck Yourself. Believe it or not, it's the end of our 21-day challenge. Thank you all so much for joining for this last session. I'm super excited to be able to dive into the habits for creation. Like I mentioned at the end of last week, this week you're going to experience some different strategies in NLP. And so make yourself comfortable because we're going to dive into doing a little bit of inner work here tonight. Healing, maybe a little bit of healing, maybe a little bit of reprogramming of our mindsets. And so get excited for what is in store. Just kind of a quick review, though, before we dive in here, y'all, of where we've come from so far. We've come so far. We started 2 weeks ago by understanding the power of our subconscious beliefs. And last week, we really started diving into the fascinating science of mindset and manifestation and talking about how to change the program and the algorithm in your mind. And so this final week is all about strategies that we're going to experience together to start doing some of that inner work of rewiring and reprogramming the subconscious for habits for creation. So that's what this week is all about. For those of you that were with me last week, you probably remember our 4 core principles of mindset change, or my, little inappropriate maybe acronym, but you'll remember it, SPERM. Specific, positive, imagination versus reality, and matching and mirroring. And so the strategies that you're going to experience today are going to begin to dive into some of these principles. It's all based in kind of the same foundation of everything that we've learned so far. And what we're really going for is shifting the feedback loop, right? We talked the last 2 weeks about this whole idea of the reacting feedback loop, where our thoughts are driven by our subconscious emotions. But to go from that to a creating feedback loop, from life happens to me to life happens for me, getting out of victim mode and programming our minds for not only the desired emotions and thoughts, but the required emotions and thoughts. Because remember, with matching and mirroring, our internal state of being has to be a match for what we want in our external world. So before we dive into the good stuff here, just kind of a quick review, especially for those of you that may have not been part of the, especially last week, is I want to start off by making sure that we're really clear on what we're trying to reprogram, right? Like, what is it that we're trying to get rid of here? So if you did not already do this last week, I want to give you the chance to kind of either rethink about this or solidify it for yourself. Is what is the belief? Let's get really clear before we reprogram the belief on what exactly it is. So ask yourself, if you haven't done so already, what belief do I hold about my level of success and achievement? And most likely this is going to be rooted in societal expectations, right? What society conditioned us for, what our parents, the education system, and so on and so forth. So if you're having trouble kind of coming up with this belief, then I've kind of given you some sentence stems. The former teacher in me is coming out here, right? If I don't get whatever reward you want, I don't get success, I don't get happiness unless I fill in the blank. That's where the belief comes into play. Few examples here. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough unless I'm constantly working, unless I'm constantly producing, right? What's the belief behind that? Belief tells me that my level of success and happiness is based on my level of productivity. Okay. I don't get happiness. I don't receive love. I don't receive attention and validation unless I work my ass off, burn myself out, right? What is the belief at the core of it for you? Elise, great. You've already put one in the chat. Feel free, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and put your response in the chat. You need to work insanely hard, sacrificing. Yeah, when beliefs come down to it, there's something that we're sacrificing, right? We're sacrificing sleep, exercise, relationships in order to become what we think is successful, what we think is happy, so on and so forth. So give yourself a moment, really solidify what is the belief that we're ready to begin letting go of. Maria, perfect. If I rest or stop, I'm failing. Yeah, it's the story that we tell ourselves. The thing is that as you're thinking about these beliefs, beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. Why? Because again, remember what we talked about before. The subconscious controls 90% of our perception of reality. And where do our beliefs live? Our beliefs live in the subconscious. So if I believe that I'm not good enough unless I burn myself out, well, then I'm going to do just that because there's no clear finish line of what good enough really means for me. If I believe that I'm not worthy of peace and abundance unless I stick with what I've been taught, unless I, stick with what everybody else told me to do, then I'm going to do just that. I'm going to stick with the known and the comfortable to keep the belief hidden and out of sight. So beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. And before we do the work of reprogramming them, we've got to get at the root of exactly what the belief is. Next thing to think about before we dive into the inner work here today is the mask. What's the mask that's preventing the belief from being seen as true? And again, there's some sentence stems there for you. As long as I, whatever, then others will never see me as not enough. As long as I continue working, as long as I keep going above and beyond and people pleasing and overcommitting, well then, hey, maybe others will see me as valuable and others will see me as worthy. Another way to think about it, I can only be seen as enough if I, whatever that blank is the mask. If I overcommit, if I continue to people please, if I put everybody else above myself, then only then can I be seen as enough. Okay, so ask yourself, in addition to the belief, what's the mask? What's the mask that we're putting on to get that validation from others? Elise, love it. As long as I'm seen as a hard worker, I can never be blamed for my failures. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm sure a lot of you can resonate, especially millennials. Stephanie, I can only be seen as enough if I earn a doctorate. Okay, so keep those coming. Keep thinking about the mask. What fear is your mask keeping you protected from? Because here's the thing, masks get put on to hide from the fear. We hide from the fear of not being enough, not being lovable. And we wear that mask to avoid the belief from being seen as true by others and by ourselves. The thing is the mask keeps us safe though, right? It keeps us safe from the sticks in our life, but it also prevents us from approaching the carrot. So when you're thinking about your masks, really important to also get clear here on how is the mask benefiting you? Because the bottom line is you wouldn't wear the mask if it didn't benefit you. You wouldn't put it on if it didn't benefit you. It keeps you safe from something. So what are the benefits of it? Give it gratitude. Does it keep you safe from not feeling enough? Does it keep you safe from layoffs and recessions, right? What does the mask keep you safe from? See some really great comments here in the chat. If I ask for help and I'm overwhelmed, others will see me as inadequate. Ooh, that's a good one, Meredith. Ooh, that's a big one. So again, what are the benefits of that? Right? What are the benefits of the mask that you put on instead of asking for help when you're overwhelmed? The mask might look like, well, I'm just going to pretend that I can do it all, like I'm the hero, right? And it protects us from being seen as unworthy, being seen as unvaluable. So the mask, yeah, exactly, Maria, got you promoted. There you go. So the mask does have benefits. It's really important to approach this from a sense of gratitude. We also talked last week, remember the metaphor of kind of like the water coming out of the hose and the hand trying to keep it covered. Same concept of the mask, right? This belief that says, if I'm not producing, I'm not enough. Well, I'm going to prevent that from being seen by saying, you know what, if I just keep overachieving, if I just keep burning myself out, nobody will see that I'm not enough, right? So think about, again, what's the mask and what's that protective mechanism, in other words, that keeps it hidden? Our beliefs sabotage our growth and potential by canceling its possibility. Yes. Do they keep us safe? Of course they do. That's why beliefs are formed. They're formed to keep us safe from our past experiences happening to us again. But they also hold us back. Because the truth is that, yeah, in order for you to have the thing that you want, it would need to mean that the belief and the fear wouldn't actually get in the way. Our beliefs sabotage our growth and potential by saying, nope, don't even think about it. It's not a possibility. It doesn't fit with the program and the algorithm that we've got running. So the next question to ask yourself here before we dive in is, what's it holding you back from? We know what it's keeping you safe from, But now, in order to really let it go, how is it sabotaging your growth? It keeps me stuck feeling burnt out. It keeps me stuck in a state of anxiety and fight or flight. It holds me back from feeling a true sense of authenticity, right? Exactly, Sarah. It worked until it didn't. So, what's the mask holding you back from? Stephanie, I love that. Holds you back from being my authentic self. That was a huge one for me, too. It's like by taking off the mask, you have to be willing to show others who you really are. And this is what I'm so astounded by, times when certain things on TikTok of mine like go viral and people comment all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I'm not alone, right? And part of me is like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Like we're having the conversation. People are becoming more aware that, yeah, it's not just you or me. Like it really is kind of a generational thing. The sad part of it is that people are also realizing at that same time that so many of us have worn a mask for the last 20 to 30 years of our life that no wonder we think it's just us is because we've worn a mask to prevent others from seeing the true us in the first place. So you got to be ready to kind of take that step, that uncomfortable step of when the mask come down, guess what's left? It's you. It's the authentic you. It's the version of you before society conditioned you and got your hands on you, right? So again, make sure that you've answered those questions. What's the belief? What's the mask that we're wearing? How does the mask keep us safe? And how does it sabotage our growth? So remember, beliefs live in the subconscious, right? And the subconscious controls and creates 90% of our reality. So yes, could we change our thoughts? Sure, we could change our thoughts, but thoughts are just temporary. And they only make up 10% of our perceived reality of truth. And so to make lasting change, then yes, we want to change our thoughts, but we want to change our thoughts with consistency so that those thoughts then begin to change the 90% of the subconscious to make the changes at the subconscious level where our beliefs, our fears, and our emotions live. So with these strategies that we're going to be talking about today, that's the idea, is consistent conscious thought using the power of that 10% in order to not just think positive thoughts, but to do that so that we reprogram what's creating the 90% of us. So to do this, I want you to ask yourself, right? What is it that you really want? Do you really want the thing? Do you really want the outcome happening out here? Or is it that you really want to feel a certain way? Because the bottom line is that even if you want the thing, your desired outcome would mean that you would have to feel a different way to embody that outcome. So what is it that you really want? And this gets into the homework that I asked you all to do last week. Remember last week's homework was all about matching and mirroring and being able to give your subconscious the experiences that allow you to feel your desired emotions. So for those of you that did your homework last night, let me hear it in the chat. What did you do? What things, hobbies, activities did you carve out time for to do that made you feel your desired emotion? Blow up the chat. What did you do to make yourself feel your desired emotions? And let you think about that for a second. Put it in the chat as we move on. But here's the bottom line. And the reason I asked that question, right, is because, again, we have to match the outcome to the state. And another way to think about this is that our brain has to be programmed first to know what it would feel like when we achieve our desired reality before the actual experience of it. Because your brain only knows how to make meaning from the patterns of the past. So you have to be able to put yourself into experiences or give your brain the experiences so that it knows, oh, that's the feeling that you want to feel. And then it's going to align you to opportunities that allow you to feel more of the same. Oh, I love this. Nat made time to learn how to code. Look at you go. Elise meditating and writing in the pool. Sarah went to 2 events locally, trying to surround myself with people that are authentic. Oh, I love that. Awesome. Keep them coming. So here's the thing, y'all, is that you might not be able to have the outcome, the thing that you want from your outside world, but you can have the desired and the required inner state in an instant. State in your inner state is always the preceding thing that happens before the outcome. And when you think about this kind of from a brain body connection sort of system, think about it like this, right? You have your autonomic nervous system, and your autonomic nervous system can be influenced by putting yourself into an experience that promotes a certain response in your body. So, for example, your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and relax, you can put yourself into certain situations and experiences like meditating, like being in nature, and then the body then promotes a certain response. Your parasympathetic nervous system turns on, and the related hormones then get released in your body. It all starts again with that top-down thinking, with our conscious thoughts then triggering the program and the algorithm on our minds to then trigger certain responses, physiological responses, hormonal responses. And then all of that then triggers those same neural networks associated to that thought pattern. So it's a cyclical, again, kind of feedback loop, right? And here's the thing, the fascinating thing, your chemistry in your body has a direct correlation to emotion. It's the brain body connection in a nutshell. When you experience emotions like peace, your body changes chemistry. Serotonin is released. Certain things happen within your body that decreases your breathing rate, your heart rate, right? When you experience anxiety, your body chemistry changes, adrenaline, cortisol. And those physiological changes are also, because of the mind-body connection, directly associated to neural networks of past experiences of the same emotions. So we talked about this last week, right? Where the focus goes, energy flows. When you put yourself in a situation that fosters a certain emotion, you're also subconsciously programming the brain to fire off those neural networks associated with past experiences of the same exact emotion. So this kind of gets into what we talked about last week. So just a quick review of the biofield, the electromagnetic field that surrounds us and is influenced by our thoughts and emotions any given second of our lives. But again, our thoughts and our emotions are 90% driven by the subconscious, our system of beliefs. And so by default, we can only observe and tune into and make meaning from the frequency that is aligned with the belief. We can only tune into information that fits with our mindset of beliefs that tell us, is this true or is this not true? Elise, is that like being addicted to stress? Yeah, same thing. When we go back to that feedback cycle loop, that feedback cycle loop is running on a default program where our thoughts, our emotions about stress and anxiety are then triggering hormonal releases in our body. And those hormonal releases then trigger that same neural network. So a lot of us, myself included at one point in time in my life, and I still have this happen, I'm not perfect, is that we subconsciously and even sometimes unconsciously are living in a feedback cycle loop that is being dictated by our subconscious emotions, by our subconscious beliefs that tell us I'm not enough unless I stress myself out, unless I stay addicted to stress. This is what causes that addiction to stress, because there's some fascinating brain science behind this that I won't get into too much depth with tonight, but there's certain people where their dopamine release has been trained to operate on stress. People get a hit of dopamine when they get stressed out, because that's what their brain has been subconsciously and even unconsciously trained for. So yeah, some fascinating stuff behind that. We'll dig into that maybe next time. And then again, remember with our biofield, remember that we talked about both your thoughts and your emotions are creating your biofield. So your internal mental frequency generated by your thoughts resonates with like frequencies that are happening out here in your world. And your internal emotional frequency that is generated by the emotions that you're feeling resonates with similar energies that are happening out here. So here's the goal. This is what we're going for, is synchronization, right? The goal is to synchronize the heart and the brain, or in other words, the thoughts and the emotions with the desired reality, to create an inner sense of coherence, right? To feel the emotions that are associated with the positive thinking, and then also to think the thoughts that would generate the desired emotions, so that the heart is then able to sync up and sync with your internal order to then amplify your electromagnetic biofield. When our thought frequencies and our emotional frequencies are not aligned, it creates this inner state of incoherence. There's this dissonance within our energy field, right? And what this really means is that the energy waves generated by our thoughts and emotions are no longer in sync. And they're going to interfere with each other. And there's going to be chaos and unstable energy patterns. But on the other hand, when our thought frequencies and when our emotional frequencies are aligned, it creates that internal state of coherence or resonance within our energy field, which means that the energy waves generated by our thoughts and emotions are in sync and are supporting each other, creating a more stable, harmonious electromagnetic energy field around us. And it's in this state that then we begin to attract more of the same. So again, ask yourself, what is it that you really want? To change the programs that create your internal inner representations, it's important to get really intentional about how you want to feel. And then asking yourself, well, okay, if that's how I want to feel, am I in resonance with that? Okay, and you can go about this in two different ways. One way is to simply ask yourself, right? What emotions do you want to feel more of? What emotions would you feel if you already had your desired outcome? Now, this might be challenging, and don't beat yourself up if it is, because if you've been living in a state of stress and anxiety for so long, and that's all you've known, it can be really difficult to even get intentional about another way of feeling, another emotional aspect, right? So if that's challenging, then ask yourself the opposite, right? A second option is to say, what emotion would you be able to avoid by achieving your goal, whatever that is? And whatever that is, then your desired state is the opposite of it. Okay, so identify what's the desired state. Amanda, perfect. I see confidence, happiness, relaxed. Awesome. And this takes us into our very first NLP strategy for creating, our first habit of creating. And it is called anchoring. Okay, this is an NLP strategy that is based on this whole idea of being able to create the internal state, the inner state from within, so that we can become resonant with our outside desires. Now, remember what we talked about with SPERM, the 4 core principles of mindset change? One of them was imagination versus reality. So this really gets into the strategy that we're going to talk about now. If you can give your subconscious the experiences of your desired emotion by participating in certain activities, that's amazing. That's great, right? That was your homework from last week. But remember, your brain can't tell the difference between remembering something and experiencing it. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and real experience. And so if you're not able to give yourself a physical experience, like going for a hike, being out in nature, riding in the pool, whatever it may be, if you're not able to give yourself the physical experience of your desired emotion, the good news is you can still use this strategy called anchoring to still give yourself the mental experience of your desired emotion by recalling a time in the past that you experienced that same emotion. So how does this all work? The first step is what we just talked about. It starts by making sure that you've got a specific and positive intention about what emotion that you desire more of. Okay, so if that's excitement, curiosity, gratitude, confidence, taking a few of them from the chat here, right? How would you need to feel to have the thing that you want in your life? Second step, and well, part of that first step actually is, again, going back to this whole idea that the external outcome has got to match the internal state. If we're not in alignment, it's just not going to happen for us. So if you're not in alignment, anchoring can help you to get into alignment, right? The second step then of anchoring is to begin to recall a past experience related to that emotion. So a good example of this that kind of brings it into real life is we all probably have that one song that reminds us of certain events in our lives, or certain smells, better yet, of a certain food that takes you right back to your childhood and makes you feel all happy and nostalgic. If you've got a certain song or a certain smell like that, put it in the chat. I know for me, anytime that I smell fresh bread or fresh cookies, anything that's freshly baked, I go straight back to my grandma's farm kitchen. Because when I was a kid, there was always something being freshly baked in the oven at my grandma's house. And so certain smells and certain sounds can anchor and bring up certain emotions from our past based on those past experiences. Okay, just like a particular song or smell can trigger a specific emotion or memory, anchoring as a strategy works by leveraging the emotion thought feedback loop or that mind body connection. So ask yourself again, whatever your desired emotion is, then ask yourself, is there an experience from my past that made me feel that way? I'm going to give you another example. If your desired emotion is motivation, for example, or confidence, I saw confidence was one. So let me use that one since somebody put it in the chat. If your desired emotion is confidence, what's a time from your past where you felt really confident? Maybe it was when you achieved something and like people recognized you, whatever it may be. Start to create this kind of mental image in your mind and resurface that memory of a time that you felt that way. The third step then is to magnify the crap out of it. Okay. And what do I mean by that? I mean, include every sense possible. Okay. And imagine when you had that experience that made you feel confident in the past. What were the sights? What were the sounds? What were the smells? What were the feelings and the touch sensations, right? Because the more senses that we activate, well, the stronger those neurons then fire together. And when neurons fire together, they wire together. So again, it's all about neuroplasticity, right? And changing the programs in the brain by being able to not just think about what you saw, but also think about what the sounds were, what the scents were, including every sense possible so that you can begin to create as strong of an internal representation as possible. Next up is at the height of that emotion, right? Is when you are feeling that emotion at the peak, then you're going to apply an anchor or a physical anchor in this case to your body. This could be pinching your thumb. This could be touching a knuckle, because the idea with anchoring is that it works by applying an external stimulus at the height of a specific emotion that then creates that same mind-body connection and allows you to then create a desired inner state in the future by applying the same external stimulus. Just like external things from our outer world make us feel a certain way, we can hack that. We can hack that by bringing up the desired emotion, create the physical stimulus ourselves in essence. And when you think about from like the neuropsychology perspective, this is basically a brain training technique for a conditioned response, but you're using it to your advantage. Pretty cool stuff. And then last but not least is being able to put it on repeat. Okay. Because again, we want to be able to make sure that our brain recognizes this new neural pathway. So being able to, again, leverage those previous positive states that you felt before to then recreate that desired state. Eventually, the idea with anchoring is that when you get into a situation in your life where you're like, oh my gosh, I need more confidence or I need more motivation, the idea is that you can literally use the physical stimulus of that anchor to then pull up the same desired emotion through the mind-body connection that you have created for yourself. Okay, so that is anchoring in a nutshell. The idea here is that control comes from the conscious. We're using the power of the 10% to reprogram the 90%. Okay. Now, because we only have an hour today, we don't have enough time to try out all these strategies, but I am going to give you guys in the follow-up emails part of it is going to be all of my resources. One of them is the self-directed course, and that includes all of the guided visualizations. Okay, so we're not going to have time for the anchoring visualization today, but at least you kind of get an idea of what the process is like. And then if you're interested, you can always go check out the full course as well. Okay. Your conscious mind is the goal setter. Your unconscious mind is the goal getter. So the unconscious mind is always concerned with delivering up the results that fit with your intentions. Okay. How do you want to feel? And then allow the subconscious to do the filtering. Remember last week we talked about the filtering process that happens with your reticular activating system. All you've got to do is give the unconscious the directions. The unconscious will do the filtering for you because it's the goal, it's the real goal getter. You don't have to worry about working so hard and trying to burn yourself out. All you have to do is give the unconscious the right set of directions. And that's what you're doing with anchoring in essence, right? And then this also takes us into the next strategy that we're actually going to do together as a guided visualization. And again, this all goes back to this kind of same concept of imagination versus reality. Same regions of the brain light up when we imagine versus when we remember, when we imagine versus when we experience it in reality. Okay, so keep this in mind as we go into this next one. We tend to do this, right? We tend to imagine for ourselves, when we talk about our imagination, what we tend to imagine by default is the future worst case scenario. It's only human. It's only natural, right? Don't beat yourself up about it. It's just the way that our brains work to keep us prepared and keep us safe from the future sticks in our life, right? But the thing is that we tend to forget about balancing it out. Because remember we talked about that your brain is like glue for the bad and oil for the good. So by default, we're always thinking about the bad things, the worst case scenarios. And we don't necessarily always give ourselves a chance to balance that out by imagining the future best case scenario, at least to kind of give our brain the option of both. So ask yourself as we go into this next strategy, what we talked about last week is what are your two what ifs, right? What's the worst case scenario? Consider it, prepare yourself for it just in case, but then give yourself just the opportunity to ask yourself the best case scenario. Okay. Before we dive into this, I just want to answer a question that came up in the Q&A. How long do we have to access the replays? I'm in the process of taking notes. The recordings are put on YouTube, so you guys have access to them forever. Okay, so as I send out the recordings, you'll have access on YouTube forever, ever. Cool, cool. All right, so what are your two what ifs? And remember that beliefs are illusions of our repeated internal representations that are designed to keep us safe from our undesired emotions, right? The belief associated to the worst case scenario is only there to keep us safe. But like we talked about last week, right? We tend to then miss out on the other options because we don't give our minds the opportunity to focus on it. We don't give our minds the opportunity to focus on that other what if, the best case scenario. So this next strategy that we're going to get into here works by programming the brain with the desired future best case scenario. And again, remember our subconscious, like we talked about before, it does not operate in terms of words and language. So you can't just tell it something in words and language. It operates on metaphors, symbols, images. So this is really where the power of your imagination and visualization is really going to come into play. Okay. And again, what we're going for here is to promote the thoughts that are going to create the desired emotions and associated physiological responses. This is where mindset change really happens, right? When we get into that creating top-down feedback loop. And again, I can't repeat this enough, right? Going back to the idea of we're programming the 90% through the power of the 10%. We talked a little bit about last week, the best way to predict your future is to simulate it. So the next strategy that we're going to dive into here is called future self-simulation. And it's really similar to pilots, right? We've all heard about like pilots and flight simulators. It's the exact same thing. We can use this exact same concept to program our desired future in reality, to prime our brain. So not to get too nerdy on y'all here, but like when you think about this from a quantum physics perspective, in quantum physics, the act of observation or measurement, right, doesn't necessarily mean physically seeing something with our eyes or measuring it with a tool. It can also refer to focusing our attention or intention on a particular object or situation. So in other words, when we visualize or imagine a specific outcome from a quantum physics perspective, we're essentially observing it on a quantum level. And our brain and body might very well just respond to that visualization as if it were a real experience, including changes in our neural activity and hormonal, physiological changes that can influence our biofield. So like a good example of this, right, is like if you're trying to attract a new job into your life, your focused thoughts and intentions might very well just collapse those wave functions of particles in the universe in a way that aligns with your desired outcome. So that's what future self-simulation is all about. First step before we actually try this out as a visualization is to get clear and get specific on the future desired state. Remember we talked about with sperm, specific and positive. Once you have your goal in mind, then we're going to begin to imagine and paint the picture in our mind. of being in a place in the future where you know you've just achieved that goal. Okay, what do you see, hear, feel, smell? We're going to try that future outcome on for size. And it's not just saying, don't just believe that it will happen, right? Know that it is already happening at a point in the future that you have access to right now. Okay, and as you're going through this process of self-simulation, be sure to not just imagine the images, right, and what you're seeing and hearing, but also fostering the desired emotion is going to be a huge part of this. Imagining the time in the future when you feel that way and then stepping into that experience. So, for example, let's say you have a goal in mind of starting your own business as an example, right? Future self simulation works by creating the mental movie in your mind of what your future self would say or do to inspire you to then take the necessary actions and put together that plan. What would your future self be doing, and what inspiration can you gain from them? Okay. What would be the experiences that would indicate that, you're making good progress? And here's the thing, y'all, as we're diving into this, if you're like, I'm not even sure what my future self would do, Peter, don't worry about it. Because remember, your brain can't tell the difference between imagination versus reality. So if you're not sure what your future self would do, think about a role model instead. What would they say or do? Okay, it might sound like a bit like woo-woo to you maybe, but what you're doing is you're using the power of your conscious intentional mind to program that algorithm, as opposed to allowing those, negative subconscious beliefs to have control over what comes next. So again, what would your future more motivated self do? And then beginning to create the simulation of your mind of that future experience. Similar to anchoring, we want to make sure that we activate as many senses as possible to create a stronger pattern, create a stronger program, okay? And then, of course, like we mentioned with anchoring, repetition is key. Repeat and keep focused on that conscious intention. All right, so y'all ready to try this out? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through a bit of a guided visualization with this. Okay, so feel free, get comfortable. Make sure that you're in whatever position is comfortable for you as we kind of go into this guided visualization. You can kind of think about it as like meditation, but not quite. It's a little bit more in depth than meditation. Okay. All right. So make yourself comfortable. And what you're actually going to do with this strategy of future self-simulation is I'm actually going to have you stay standing. Okay. I know you might be like, what? I have to stand up. It works a lot. You don't have to, but it works a lot better if you can stay standing for this. So we're going to begin by, again, just kind of finding a quiet and comfortable place. Stay standing in a comfortable position with both of your feet on the ground. And then just take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And then as you're standing with your feet on the floor, what I want you to try to do is actually begin to kind of grip the floor or the ground with your toes. Okay, standing up nice and straight. Make sure your feet, if you're standing especially, make sure your feet are about, shoulder width apart and pointed forward. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to have you do is just rotate your hips slightly forward and allow your shoulder blades to drop slightly down your back. Okay, you can keep your arms relaxed at your sides. Keep your knees kind of loose. And then go ahead and breathe in nice and deeply again. And then as you breathe out, just kind of allow your body to sink slightly, even though you're standing up. Okay. Next thing I want you to do is focus your attention on your abdomen. Focus on kind of a couple inches right below your navel. And the muscles in that area should feel a little bit tense. Okay. And throughout this exercise, really kind of keep some of your attention on that spot in your abdomen and just kind of notice what you feel. Cool. All right, y'all, here we go. Go ahead and take another deep breath in. Feel the energy of the earth beneath your feet. And as you exhale, imagine any tension or stress leaving your body and grounding you to this present moment. All right. In this grounded position, take one more deep breath. And as you exhale, if you haven't already done so, allow your eyes to close. Now imagine your future self standing in front of you, facing you. You've basically created another version of yourself. This is the version of you in the future that has already accomplished what you set out to do. It's the version that reflects your desired outcome and emotional state. See this version of yourself as the embodiment of success and happiness. See yourself as the person you aspire to become. The version of you that's more successful and happier than ever before. Notice the qualities and energy that radiate from your future self. In this future vision, you're living a life free of burnout. You've redefined what it means to be successful. Success is no longer tied to hustling and constantly pushing yourself to the brink. Now it's about finding balance and fulfillment in all aspects of your life. See yourself excelling in your pursuits, not because of the pressure to hustle, but because you are pursuing what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. Take a moment to become aware of what this future person is experiencing. What successes have they achieved? How are they feeling right now? Imagine how that version of you must feel with all of these powerful characteristics that they embody. Notice how they stand straight and tall. And really get to know this future version of you. I'm going to give you a moment to just notice what you notice. Now, I want you to imagine your future self speaking to you. This version of yourself has already experienced all the emotions that come with your desires. Hear them speaking to you, offering words of encouragement and support. Maybe they tell you that you are 100% capable and that you have the strength and determination to overcome anything that might arise. And that you deserve to experience the emotions that come with this way of living. As you see your future self thriving, I want you to ask them, what changes have you made to redefine success and happiness? What choices have they contributed to their new way of living? How has their life improved as a result of this new perspective? Take a moment to really absorb the emotions and sensations of this future vision. Feel the joy and contentment. I'll give you a moment to just listen to what this future you is saying. As you hear their words, I want you to feel yourself becoming more and more motivated, knowing that there's already a version of you that has already achieved your desired reality in your future that you have access to right now. And in just a moment, when I say go, you're going to walk around the back of the other you, and you're going to take a step forward, allowing yourself to step into that version of you, the version that's happier, successful, full of abundance, joy, peace. And when you turn around with your eyes still closed, you'll then be facing the past version of you. And yeah, you can do this in your imagination, but it's going to be even more powerful if you step in behind this imaginary you that already exists and step into them. Here we go. Ready? Set. Go. Step into that future version of you. Feel yourself take on their demeanor. Stand straight and tall with them. Now facing the past version of you. And notice how you feel being able to look out through your own eyes of the future you. What emotions do you feel? Maybe it's a sense of pride or accomplishment, confidence. Allow yourself to feel these emotions as you visualize yourself in this new version. Begin to look out through your own eyes. So what do you see, hear, and feel as this version of you? Notice how you feel when you take on their attributes. Take a deep breath in. Savoring this newfound sense of clarity. Take a moment, really feel what it feels like to have the things and emotions you desire, and just remain in this state for the next minute or so. Allow yourself to really feel it. And in just a moment, you're going to open your eyes and embody this version of you. And when you do open your eyes in just a moment, really decide to take the next step based on what this future version of you would do. Carry with you all those positive emotions and the motivation that you now have access to. Be yourself implementing the changes and decisions. Take another deep breath in. As you exhale, allow your eyes to gently open. Slowly bring yourself back to this present moment. Come back to this present moment, just know that that future version of yourself is within reach, right? And that you have the power to make your desired outcome a reality. You are frickin' limitless. How do y'all feel? Yeah, it's very powerful stuff for sure. The power of your mind. Oh, Audrey definitely got emotional. It's a good thing to get emotional, right? It's a good thing to be able to release it. So don't be ashamed of that. All right, y'all. I know we're running a little bit low on time here, and I have one more visualization for you before we end things for this session. So the bottom line here is with the future self simulation, allow a chance for the good to be considered and be felt, right? Our brain is like oil for the good, but it's okay to at least just allow the oil to seep in a little bit. The best way to predict the future is to begin preparing for it. Okay, and the most important part here is to actually start doing those things. It's the neuroscience of manifestation. You can't just imagine what you want and expect it to happen. You have to get in the right state and then take meaningful action. Meet the universe halfway. You are literally capable of everything and anything, but your subconscious has the tendency to tell you otherwise based on those limiting and destructive beliefs, right? All right, y'all. So our last strategy this evening is going to be get ready. It's a powerful one. It's all about reframing, because the toughest part of mindset change is that we can talk all day, every day about programming the new, and we can talk about the best case scenario. But if we're not addressing the beliefs of our past, they continue to live on in the subconscious, right? Our past beliefs are so often hindering and sabotaging our ability to create. So this last strategy that we're going to learn is all about reframing our past so that we can officially let go. Remember that our brain uses that belief system as the algorithm to predict the probabilities of our future based on past patterns, right? And so our past perceptions then create our future projections. But is it then possible then to change our current perceptions of the past? When you remember an event, right, you are not actually remembering the full event. You're just remembering your conscious mind's perception of the event, the filtering that took place then and now. We form our internal representations and decoding of the subconscious metaphors, right, as well as conscious language. And sometimes that picture that we have in our mind from a memory might be quite different from the actual experience. Okay, it's the metaphors, the pictures are just metaphors for the neural network. And you make that up based on the neural networks and the program that you have right now. So your future is just an imagined reality in this present moment. It's your brain's way of predicting your next response based on past patterns. And your past is maybe not really the reality of a past. It's simply just your brain's perception of the past. But hopefully what you're starting to understand here is that through the mindset work, we can change our perception. We can change our internal representation of memories using the power of the conscious to change the subconscious. So here we go, y'all. Last strategy of the night, and then get ready for the good stuff. The first part of reframing the past is to be able to identify the belief keeping you stuck. Okay, we've already kind of done a lot of this part here, right? So that's the good news. And, really being able to now choose how we want to frame that belief in our minds. So again, just kind of think about, bring to the surface again, that limiting belief that's maybe keeping you stuck. Maybe it's that you're not good enough for something you desire, or that things don't work out. Bring up that belief. And then this is kind of the tough part here, right? Is begin to create the mental picture in your mind of what are maybe the past experiences and memories that may have contributed to that event. Was it something that someone did to you or said to you? Was it a previous failure or embarrassment? It's important to bring those experiences to the front of your mind. Either think about them, or better yet, to write them down. Write down what's your current perception of those experiences at this very moment. Okay. And then it's time to really begin to challenge the belief, right? So think about how you might reframe just one aspect of those past experiences. For example, maybe it's saying, instead of focusing on the meaning that you gave it at the time, thinking about, well, what else could that mean? How did I grow from that? What were the lessons that I learned about myself, about how strong I really am? Okay, a good way to think about this is like zooming out, right? Zooming out on the experiences in the event and really seeing the larger picture, because we really tend to get caught up in the details. but oftentimes, the details are just part of a larger whole that we're not yet aware of until we really kind of take the time to see it as something that's part of that greater whole. And then the next part is to begin to think about the opposite of that limiting belief. If your limiting belief from your associated memories is that, things don't work out for me, work on shifting that belief and shifting the internal representation to be, what, I'm capable of anything I put my mind to with a little bit of time and effort. Okay, so the idea with reframing is to, after you have the opposite of the limiting belief, is to then change your perception of the original event. Remember, memories are perceptions of the past, and then begin to write down a new version of the story from that refreshed perspective. Okay. And then begin to run through, just like we did before, run through the visualization in your mind. Step into the story in your mind. Make the new version more real for you. Maybe you step in as the hero, right? Maybe you step in and say the thing that you didn't say at the time, or do the thing that you didn't do at the time that led to a negative experience. Reframe it in your mind and run the visualization. And then here's the hardest part. I'm going to be honest with you. The biggest and hardest lessons with reprogramming beliefs is you have to let the belief go with gratitude. Letting go is not possible when our inner state is that of resentment. Okay, because what does resentment mean? Resentment means that we're still holding on tight to something because we're still waiting on something to change. It's that biofield, right? Our internal state of resentment and even hate. Well, then if that's our inner state, what can we expect from our outer reality, right? What are we resonating with? So it is so important that when we're getting ready to do this work, is that we're giving gratitude for how the belief has kept us safe in the past. And then to also affirm the new, less limiting belief, right? Yes, the experiences that we had before, I'm not trying to say that like the experience was not bad or traumatic, right? It's not that. But when you separate the experience from the belief, then you can start to see how that belief has kept you safe and benefited you and kept you prepared and kept you safe from similar experiences happening again. So giving it gratitude and affirming the new belief. And of course, again, repeating every so often to reframe the various parts of that experience. Cool. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Y'all, we're going to do one more visualization. This is kind of the final fireworks, but I want to end on that. And so before we get into our last activity here, I told y'all last week that I had a very exciting announcement that I wanted to share with y'all this week. And that is my new program coming up in September. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of insight into this. So that way we talk about this and then we'll end with our last guided visualization to officially release some limiting beliefs. All right, so let me go ahead and just switch this over. I'm just going to share my screen with y'all and I'll walk you through this. And I'm going to put in the chat, if you just want to take a look at this for yourself, I'm putting in the chat the link to the program. And then I'm also just going to share my screen with you here. So my program that is coming up in September, it is the Burnt Out to Turned Up 30-day program. It is specifically designed for millennials that are struggling with burnout, that have maybe tried therapy before, but it just hasn't worked for you. And you're just freaking sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sound familiar? So it's a really unique, powerful, one-of-a-kind hybrid group coaching session that starts on September 20th. It runs for a full 4 weeks. Yeah, I love the title. Thank you. And it's a mix of two different things. The first thing is NLP mindset work, similar to kind of what we're doing here tonight, except you're going to experience even more of it. And then the second thing is human design. And so I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that means. But in my framework that I call it, in these 30 days, I'm going to walk you through the full framework of burnout recovery that I call the 4 R's of the Millennial Reset. So the first R is all about recognizing, uncovering those beliefs, uncovering our triggers. The second R is all about regulating and recovering, being able to put in place the brain-based strategies and habits to regulate your nervous system and get you back into a state of balance. Because you cannot do this work of reprogramming your mindset when you're still stuck in fight or flight mode all the time. Okay, so I'm going to give you both the habits for regulating your nervous system, and then that's going to set us up for the reprogramming your mindset piece, diving into more of the NLP strategies, neurolinguistic programming, to do the reprogramming. And then the rediscover, the fourth R, is all about human design. So if you've heard about human design before, I think even a few of you have maybe had a reading from me before, an analysis. But if you've heard about human design, or if you haven't, just let me know in the chat with a yes or no. I'm very curious. But part of the program is going to include your very own one-on-one personalized 60-minute human design session. And I will tell you, before I tell you about what human design, it was the game changer for me. It was what made me have the confidence to step into like my most authentic identity. Huge game changer. And so my framework is unique in that I use both things. I use human design to be able to give you an idea of what is your energetic blueprint. You've got your physical DNA, but your energetic DNA is what human design is all about. It's like astrology and Enneagram put on steroids times 10, right? So you're going to have your own one-on-one personalized human design reading. And then that's going to allow you to then begin to uncover, like, how is it that I'm programmed to actually operate before society programmed me and conditioned me? And it's also going to give you some really good insights into kind of what might be some of those limiting beliefs that are holding you back, right? So it's got those 4 parts: recognize, regulate, and recover, reprogram, and rediscover. So what's included? Again, you're going to get a one-on-one personalized human design analysis, 60 minutes. That's a $99 value. The 4 weeks of live group coaching calls with guided visualizations. You're also going to get full access to my online course, the Millennial Mindset Makeover, where every single week you're going to be emailed new online lessons that go along with the program that we're going to be doing with the live group coaching. And there's some free freebies in there as well. Access to the community of support, my ebook, lots more there. So you are the first people to hear about this. You are the very first people that are hearing about this. And I wanted to do that because I want to give you all the gift of the early access price. And so I'm limiting this to 50 seats just because I can only do so many human design readings with them the next month. And so I'm going to limit it to 50 people. And so you guys will kind of have first dibs at this. And the price for you all up until next Wednesday, because next Wednesday I'll begin releasing it to everybody else, is $100 off. So it'll be $175 total for everything included. That includes your one-on-one human design reading, the 4 weeks of group coaching, all of the online course materials, and the bonuses. Okay. So again, you've got a week to kind of decide, but again, don't procrastinate too much because the price is then going to go up to the regular price, and then the VIP early registration will go away, and it'll just be the regular $275 at that point in time. Cool. I'm going to stick on the line after our final activity here to answer any questions that you might have. But again, I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat so that you can maybe save that for yourself if you're interested in checking it out. There's a few FAQs there. If you don't know your birth information for human design, we can always do a one-on-one mindset coaching call as well. You'll still get the one-on-one. It'll just be more focused on human design or on mindset than it is on human design. Okay. So really excited to share that with you all, as being able to kind of share the framework that has worked for me and worked for so many others that I've done one-on-one coaching for, and be able to kind of have a community support along the way as well. So hope to see you there. Really excited to be able to share this out with y'all. But without further ado, let's step in to our last guided visualization. So let me get back over here. All right, no worries, Davika. Hopefully I'll follow up via email with everybody as well, so you'll have the links via email. Thanks so much. All right, I know I'm running a little bit low or past time here, but for those of you that are able to stick around, one more guided meditation. And this one that we're going to do is all about the reframing, not only the reframing, but also being able to officially allow the limiting belief to be let go, but with gratitude. Okay, so here we go. Again, get comfortable. If you want to lay down for this, you are more than welcome to. Whatever you need to do to get yourself comfortable. All right, here we go. Go ahead and take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just allow your eyes to close. continue to just take those deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Feeling 10 times more relaxed already. Just allow yourself to become fully present in this moment. Feeling more and more relaxed with each breath out. All right. And with your eyes closed and feeling relaxed, start to bring to the front of your mind that belief that's been holding you back. Try to remember the past experiences that created this belief in the first place. And as you do, I want you to create a fist. And imagine that this belief is like a ball of energy that you're holding on tight to. And as you squeeze your fist, recognize the past benefits of this belief. It was created to keep you safe and avoid potential threats at one point in time in your life. But the belief needs permission to be let go. It served you in the past, but it's holding you back. But it needs to hear from you first. It needs to hear you tell it that you're safe now from the thing that it was created to protect you from. It needs to hear the life that you're being held back from because it's kept you stuck. How would your life be different without this limiting belief? What goals and experiences would you allow yourself to have? Take a moment and really be present with both sides. The side that is held on to the belief as a way to keep safe, but also the side of you that wants to let go of the belief to move on. And with that belief in the forefront of your mind, squeeze your fist just a little bit tighter. Notice how it becomes easier to keep holding it tight, but how painful it becomes and what it might feel like to release it. And in just a moment, we're going to take one deep breath together and hold it at the top. Here we go. Deep breath in and hold. Keep squeezing that fist. And when I get to 1, you're going to open your fist and place your open hand over your heart and allow this belief that's been holding us back to find a release through compassion. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Continue breathing on your own. Take whatever time you need to be present in this moment. Whenever you're ready, gently come back to this space and let that new belief be your guide. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all so much for being a part of this journey. I will stick on the line in case there are any questions that you might have for me about the program. Or hey, if you just want to use this time to be in this space together, this is your space, my friends. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.